Hi, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's ISE webinar. And we're going to be talking today about opportunities for employers to engage with further education. If I haven't met any of you before, my name's Steve Isherwood. I'm Chief Executive of the ISE, Institute of Student Employers. A bit of background to where this webinar's come from. I live in Harlow, in Essex, and Harlow College is about five minutes down the road from where I live. And as the ISE has expanded just beyond purely graduate recruitment in our existing base with universities and working a lot more with schools and colleges. Harlow College actually was recommended to me by David, CEO. The Association of Colleges is a real exemplary model of how a college can work with employers in really innovative practices. So I've been over 2 or 3 times, and one of the places I went to was Stansted Airport College, which is part of the overall college, and we'll hear specifically some more examples about that. So all that's to come. That's what the webinar is about today. Got a great set of speakers. So we've got the college vice principal, we've got Victoria, who's head of college at Stansted Airport, and also really important, we hear the student voice, apprentice voice. So we've got Sean and Aziz, who will be giving their insights in terms of what it's like to study at the college, what it's like to be an apprentice, and what it's like to sort of be entering that world of employment. So all that to come. As with all our webinars, we do record them, so you'll get the chance to watch the webinar afterwards and revisit anything that you want to catch up on. And as with all our webinars, we're always really keen that all the knowledge sharing information gets shared. So once we send you the link through afterwards, please feel free to share it. And I know the college will also, I think, be putting it up on their website or putting a link up. So all that to come. We will have time at the end for questions, so we like to have it as interactive as possible. I'll sort of act as MC, so I'll keep an eye on the chat and the Q&A box, but if you've got any questions as we go through, drop them into there and I'll be able to put them back to our participants at the end of the webinar. So that's enough for me. Let's get cracking. It's the content that you're here for. So Will, can I hand over you to first of all to sort of set the scene a little bit and tell us about the college?
Yes, thank you, Steve. So yeah, Will Allanson, Deputy Principal at both Harlow and Stansted Airport Colleges. I really was going to speak to you specifically about Stansted Airport College, but it's part of our wider strategy as Harlow College as well to work very, very closely with employers. Our strategic intentions are to have a career-led curriculum to model the workplace and really ensure that our learners are as work ready as they can be. And we recognise we can only do that by working extremely closely and in partnership with employers. And we've got many examples of that, but I think probably the best example is the Stansted Airport College, where we've set up a specific facility really geared at moving people and a skills pipeline into the aviation industry, and to help the airport and the employers at the airport to specifically meet their skills needs and their challenges. So the way it came about was that the airport themselves, they published a sustainability strategy, which we looked at with them. And in the strategy, they recognised that they were, at the time, they were the fastest growing airport in the country. They employed around 11,000 people at about across 200 plus organisations. And they had aspirations, they still have aspirations, to grow the airport from what was then about 18 million passengers a year to up to what was their growth capacity, which was 35 million. And since they've been able to go past their current growth capacity and up to their single airport runway capacity, that will take their passengers to 43 million passengers a year. They recognised to reach that growth, they would need an additional 10,000 people at the airport, working at the airport. And that didn't take into account the fact that if you just took the engineers that were currently working at the airport, over a short period of time, 80% of those people were due to reach retirement age. So the airport themselves were looking at, crikey, this is what we need to do to grow. Where is our workforce going to come from? If you couple that with the geography of the airport itself, the airport is the single largest employment site in the east of England. As I said, it's 11,000 people, over 200 organisations. But if you looked at the skills provision and colleges supporting the airport, there was nothing in the area. Young people wanting to go onto courses, vocational courses, would have to go to either the north of Cambridge or down to us. But there was a big area surrounding the airport where there was no skills provision. And any local skills provision that you looked at in the area, none of it was focused on what was the single biggest employment site in the east of England. So we embarked on a piece of work to work with the airport to put a facility there specifically geared towards the skills needs of the organisations operating across the airport. After a lot of work and many late nights and a lot of head scratching and probably sometimes where you're thinking this is not going to happen. 5 years later, we had the first of our learners walk through the door, which was a fantastic achievement in itself. And I can remember all kind of patting myself on the back thinking we really achieved something here, but it wasn't really until the following year when our first graduates actually came out of their first courses and they were going into employment. It was then that we all realised that's what we really achieved, and we've achieved. And Victoria will tell you in very clearly on how we've set that pipeline up and how we've got demonstrable figures and examples of where we're moving young people from school through the college and into careers at the airport. We're in our, Victoria, tell me if I'm wrong, I think we're in our 4th year of operating. Fifth year, thank you very much. And Victoria will go through some of the progression figures and where our learners are progressing to. Really, that's probably it for me to give you some background of why you would embark on placing a college literally at the end of a runway of the national international airport. But Victoria will be able to go through and give you some more details. Victoria.
Thank you, Will. Let me just share my screen with everyone. Okay, so let me begin. As Will has said, we are a college based at the end of the runway, working very closely with Stansted Airport. We're a college that focuses on careers, not just courses, and our students are mostly 16 to 19-year-olds who are really passionate about the aviation industry. We are training the future workforce of the airport and business partners that surround the airport as well. When we were in our concept stage and as we are going through year on year, we work very closely with those employers to build our curriculum and to make sure that we're addressing the skills and the employment gaps around in the aviation industry. At the very beginning, we looked to Stansted Airport for information on their employment vacancies so that we could identify what courses we could do that could train the future talent to fill those gaps. And we spoke with engineering companies about their growth and their sustainability concerns because there was an ageing workforce, as Will has already said. So we needed to make sure that our training was going to meet their needs. So when I talk about training, I'm not just talking about the qualification, I'm talking about developing those transferable skills with those young people. So for example, Ryanair in particular told us that their new trainees can take up to 18 months to be able to rivet in a straight line. So we took that on board, created a project as part of the level 2 qualification that had our young trainees creating an access panel into the aircraft skin that showed off their skills at riveting and accuracy. So they do that over a 12-week period. But our students are confident to be able to rivet in a straight line by week 6. And they also have a product at the end to be able to take into those potential employers when they're going in for interviews. The airport terminal itself spoke to us about challenges of rota systems and the shift system. So we thought, we're okay, we can be flexible with our timetables. Let's create a timetable that prepares these young people for changes in shifts and changes in rotas. And we do that termly so that our students get to grips with public transport, so that they know that coming in for 8 o'clock, there are plenty more buses and trains available to them. But if they're coming into their lessons that start at 10 or 10:30, they need to make sure they catch the bus that's there. They can't afford to wait for another one because the frequency is just not there. So they also commented over in the terminal that their new entry level employees working within the terminal itself would often leave within a couple of weeks because they just didn't realise there would be so much walking and standing. They can walk up to 10 miles a day. So we put our bus stop a kilometre away from actually where they're coming in to learn. So they're walking 2 kilometres to and from college every day anyway. And our classrooms here are adapted to the workplace environment. So we have quite a lot of standing tables that they work at instead of sitting down. So we are preparing them quite early on. We don't shout about this. So Sean and Aziz, who are also in this call, please don't tell everyone, but there was subliminal psychology there when we started everything. So we constantly look to inspire our trainees and we raise their aspirations. Just this week, I met with the new intake of graduates at Manchester Airport Group and have arranged a buddying scheme for our trainees that intend to move on to university to have some support. The aim is that those graduates can reach out to our trainees and help them with some of their UCAS applications and some of the skills that those trainees will need to develop confidently to make the next step into independent living and learning at a higher level. The aviation industry is now in full recovery. Stansted Airport is still the largest single employer in the Southeast and the second busiest terminal in the UK. This year, 86% of our leaving students that finish their course with us have secured full-time work at the airport or with commercial airlines. That's a fantastic statistic to be able to talk about, and it really does prove that we are providing the future talent for the airport and the airport environment. To top that, 98% of our students have actually moved into positive destinations. So whilst we are here to put young people into work at the airport, we are also here to prepare them for the next steps in their education. So that 98% figure includes employment plus universities and also apprenticeships. Move on to the next slide. As you can see, this is us at the end of the runway with a EasyJet in the background flying in. Most of our classrooms have a clear line of sight of the airport and potential future careers. So planes taking off and landing every day provide our trainees and our teachers with opportunities to apply everyday learning, from observing the landing gear operation to watching the emergency services muster at the RVP points, which I'll probably keep looking out of the window because there's activity always. The RVP point is right outside my window, so it's great. I get to watch the Prime Minister land. I watch the President of the US land, all from my desk. It's amazing. Our trainees also, because we are here and everything around the airport is so visible, they become brand aware on a daily basis. So they understand the businesses in flight. They know about Ryanair, they know about FedEx, they understand what goes on in the airport terminal, because if they're coming in on buses and trains, they have to walk through the terminal to be able to get their transfer to the college. And also we've got the diamond hangar. So there's constant reminders of their potential career destination because of our position. Across all of our curriculums, we start really with the career, because we find it inspires those young people, it gives them an idea of something that they can be working towards, depending upon which qualification they're going on. So it provides the inspiration, particularly for those that are money driven, but it gives them some opportunities for research material and for them to understand the skills, their skills awareness and the development that they will need to be working on whilst they're with us. Our students come here because they're passionate about the aviation industry. It makes a huge benefit in the classroom to the teachers. And also all of our teachers are ex-industry teachers. We bring them in. We've got aircraft engineers, we've got cabin crew, we've got flight planners, and within FE we train them to become teachers, because it's much easier to inspire those young people with real life examples. So our students come in with ambitions of becoming air traffic controllers, pilots, aircraft engineers, event planners, or going off to university. But often within their first term, sometimes they will change their minds and become inspired by other careers that employers have come in and spoken to them about. For example, students often dismiss a career in security until they understand how it underpins all the roles within the aviation environment and offers ambitious career progression. 9 out of 10 of the past executive roles at MAG began their career in security, and they come in and they tell our young people that. So there's some fantastic opportunities there. This is our engineering pathway. So it gives our learners the opportunity to be inspired by future employment options. The support we get from employers makes these careers not just aspirational, but also achievable. If we just take one of these careers, for example, the aircraft maintenance technician, this is the role that we offer as an apprenticeship here at the college, and we work with partners like GT Engines, Sky Smart, In-Flight, Titan, Kearsley Airways, and TUI. We've currently got 63 apprentices here at Stack. So our level 2 pre-apprenticeship program, that practical program I spoke about at the beginning, where they have a metal task, they are all competing with each other in those classes to be the best that they possibly can, so that they are shortlisted for some of those apprenticeship opportunities. We've also got the aerospace engineer and electronics engineer qualification on here that attracts our level 3 BTEC students. So that's a qualification that's the equivalent of 3 A levels. And some of those students come on because they want to go on to university and take aeronautical engineering that step further, but also applying for some of those high apprenticeships. We've had students that have gone from that course year on year into positions at Boeing, BA and Airbus. And those alumni, they come back in on a year by year basis and talk to the groups that they were learning in when they first came to the college. So again, they are so inspirational because it makes our learners believe that they can do that as well. Aviation operations, cargo and logistics is another one of our pathways to meet the needs of the workforce over at the airport. We increased our offer this year to include logistics, recognising that where we're in the innovation corridor, and through the lockdown period and post-Brexit, the one area of growth at Stansted Airport was within the cargo and logistics industry. We've developed partnerships with FedEx, Swissport and Blue Handling to share different work profiles that prepare for some of the entry-level jobs and the opportunities. That for some of these roles, you can go in at entry level, but within 3 years, you're supervisor and working towards lower management, because they're taking these young people in while they're fresh, they're keen, and they're pliable and moldable to become that brand that they're working for. We have a lot of aspiring young pilots. Aziz is one of those, and he'll talk a little bit later about his aspirations. And we design a lot of our enrichment activities around supporting them in their training pathways. So we bring in pilots, and we're fortunate during lockdown to have a couple of pilots that were furloughed, and they joined our teaching team, which again was amazing. It just makes aspirations and career choices realistic. This year, we've had Jet2, EasyJet, Skyborne, the Red Arrows and Staplefield Airfield offer experiences that enhance the aspiring pilots' experiences with us. Our last pathway is events management and hospitality. So we remind our students that working in the hotel industry offers the opportunity of working internationally. A lot, I would say 90% of our event management students have part-time work in and around the airport environment, working for the international hotel chains. And they recognise that the industry is all about commitment and hard work, and having that can-do attitude, sometimes working crazy hours to delight the customer, will offer them great opportunities throughout the hotel industry. Again, it's you go in at entry level, you show that hard work and that commitment, and you will be given the responsibility and the reward with that as well. So we concentrate on developing the skills that are not just for those entry level jobs, but with an idea that these young people are going to be having a long, sustainable career within event management. So I suppose this is really our USP, and I'm learning to say it's our area of outstanding practice. The employer engagement is the secret of our success. We are lucky to be positioned where we are. We now find that employers are knocking on our door looking for support to help them with recruitment. We model assessment days and apprenticeship workshops that offer individual support to our students applying and being interviewed. We welcome employers on a daily basis. We have representatives of MAG in this week, as well as corporate flight training, who offer us sponsorships for our cabin crew trainees to use. And they use our private jets in the back garden, which is really quite special, to train some of those VIPs and corporate flight attendants. Our students are prepared when a visitor walks into their class and that this could be their future employer. All of our students wear business wear uniform and our college branded scarf and tie. They know that a uniform is standard dress if they are to be working in an airport environment. And they also know that we all form our first impressions in the first 7 seconds and want to present the very best versions of themselves. All of our business partners offer some level of engagement with the college. They recognise that we're training their future talent, and so attend our college-run careers weeks, week-long career-themed experiences that are shared across all areas of the curriculum. And many of our partners look to us in the first instance for their new recruits. We have our own star agency that's in our reception area who work with those employers and students to match the perfect candidates, working with them throughout the year to support them in their success. I've got some lovely pictures here of our students and some of the activities and things that have happened in the college over the last 6 months, really. Here, we've got our young aspiring pilots at Skyborne down at Gloucestershire Airport. We had 2 alumni that completed their pilot training this year with Skyborne. They complete it in Florida. What an amazing place to go and do your last flying hours. But they were at Skyborne when our students visited, so they were able to share their experiences. And our current students with the partnership that Skyborne offers. We also work with Fantasy Wings. They are a charity they offer us 4 scholarships for our BAME students, which again, they're a category that are often underrepresented within the pilot profession. They mentor through this program, they advise and they coach through the different entry routes into becoming a pilot. And some of them are offered a scholarship to complete their private pilot's license, which is a fantastic offer. We've also got a picture here of Priti Patel, who visited us in August. And in February this year, we also had Princess Anne come and have a tour of our college, which was amazing. Last year, despite COVID restrictions on visitors and trips to education, we were still able to facilitate over 40 events here at the college that provided over 3,000 touch points for all of our trainees to be engaged with employer engagement in some way. So that's from our Royal visit in March to Skyborne visits with simulator experiences, going airside at Stansted with Jet2, and a VIP visit to the Red Arrows to meet their Blue Engineers at RAF Scampton. We've had guest list speakers that bring their roles to life with our students, that include the Escape Lounge experience, Novotel VIP bookings, and Hampton by Hilton talks for our event management students. We have really good relationships with the CAA and the Department for Transport. They've both been in to talk to our aviation operations students and our engineers. And we've arranged personal tours of GT Engines and their workshop, Kearsley and Titan for our pre-apprentices, so that they become more employer aware of what opportunities there are for them, and inspiring different career pathways. I mentioned before that we hold themed weeks where we bring employers in to meet their potential new recruits. Jet2, for example, and Titan have provided daily workshop sessions that span careers from customer service, ground operations to hangar and line maintenance. So all areas of our curriculum can work with those companies, because there are entry-level jobs that their qualification could fit them nicely into. Let's move on to the next page. So professional behaviours, again, we are making these young people ready for work, and it's something that FE in particular specialises in. I know that from my own personal experience, because my children are at sixth form and they are not work ready. But we work on a daily basis preparing our young people to be facing employers and to be able to communicate with them with confidence. We recognise that getting 16-year-olds ready for work is the key to their success. So we've worked closely with employers to develop some of the work-ready skills that new employees will need to work with in the aviation industry. We excel in developing the skills and behaviours employers often recognise as lacking in entry-level employees. Our curriculum focuses on respect, resilience, responsibility and reflection. We encourage our students to become confident with their independence. Most of the time, our trainees are learning in state-of-the-art classrooms, workshops or skills kitchens that replicate the working environments. Behaviours in the workshop reflect behaviours in the hangar environment, and behaviours are built into the curriculum. Team leaders and health and safety reps are assigned in each of the practical sessions, and there's interpersonal skills that prepare them for interview, eye contact, handshaking, speaking clearly, and that most important, professional integrity. We do have that uniform policy that I spoke about before. We operate that shift system. We do all of these things to make sure that they hit the ground running when these employers take the risk on taking an 18-year-old to work with them. We aim to teach them complete tasks and assignments that are similar to those that they would have to be working on in their work environment. So there is some practical food practice in event management and hospitality. Within aviation operations, we run be a meteorologist for the day, reporting on the weather. And when those working within the engineering department get to work on our Bombardier Challenger that's in the back garden. Plus, we've also got a glider, and we also have a build-a-plane project. So there's plenty for our students to be keeping their hands busy on. We also have some great success stories for our students. I mentioned at the beginning that Billy on the left-hand side there, he is going off to train to be a pilot with Virgin. He had to go up against another 2,000 potential applicants as well. Then he was successful, which is amazing. And we've got Richie on the right, who's off to be an apprentice with Boeing. Our destination data that we've collected is not totally complete across all of them, but I mentioned at the beginning that 86% are working in and around the airport environment. 12 of our cabin crew work with Jet2, and some will be flying with BA and Ryanair. 14 of our apprentices moved into apprenticeships with our current partners. and we can record that 15% of our students have gone off to university. So it's great to be able to work with these employers and for them to come in and to tell our students they're looking for people to work with them, and to work alongside them, developing some of their skills. So we've also got a picture here of one of our students, Udon. He's meeting Mandy Hickson, who was a guest speaker at the BBGA conference. The aviation organisations and associations recognise what we're doing as a college and training the future workforce for the aviation industry, and they provide us with some amazing opportunities for our students. They invite us to their annual general meetings or their annual events. Not all of our students, but a select few, and it's great to be able to take them along and give them an opportunity to network with again, potentially their future employees. I've also got an image in the bottom right hand corner with our old logos, because we have now moved to green signage, but this was last year at the Herts and Essex School in Bishop Stortford. There are 4 of my ambassadors there that come along and support me in promoting the college. To be honest, I don't really need to go. They do the job so much better than I do, but it's great to be able to have them come along with me. And finally, before I close off and hand over to my wonderful students, we are very, very lucky here at the airport to be included in some of the emergency drill simulations that the airport and emergency services run. Just last week, there was a mock plane crash, and some of our students played passengers, some of them injured, some of them survivors, and we've also taken part in terrorism situations where passengers are on a plane being held hostage, and again 130 of our students took part in that. These are fantastic ways of providing challenging and stressful situations to young people that they are able to reflect upon their behaviours and other people's behaviours, and use as prime examples when they go into interview. We've also got some images of our students that were invited to the Air Charter Expo over in Biggin Hill. In the middle, they are our students that have been successful with Fantasy Wings, and hopefully will gain that sponsorship to get them through their private pilot's license. And then on the bottom right hand side, we've got our students flying gliders. We had a themed day last week that was called Careers with Altitude. We worked alongside the Royal Aeronautical Society and Boeing, and they came along to talk to all of our students throughout the whole day, with the afternoon build a glider workshop, and then a flying challenge. And the winners of those flying challenges have been offered a taster experience for becoming a drone pilot. So again, those assessment days give our students the opportunity to work on their teamwork skills, their communication skills, adapting to working with people they've never worked with before, and bringing the strengths of each of those individuals within that team to produce something quite amazing at the end of it. So that is just a little snapshot of what we do throughout the year, and we do more year on year because we recognise that our students benefit from any type of employer enrichment that we can bring to them. Thank you very much for listening to me. I'm going to hand over now to, I think I'll go to Sean first, and then Sean, when you're done, if you could hand over to Aziz, please.
No worries. So, hi everyone, I'm Sean Hart. I'm an apprentice with Storm Aviation, and I've been studying at the college for just over 3 years now. I was a second intake of students. So with my story starting over 3 years ago, I started on the level 2 course, the one that Victoria was talking about, the more practical side. So during this course, I developed my skills from a previous course in the GCSE level engineering, which I then applied those skills onto the level 2 course, learning through my units such as sheet metal, which taught me things like tool control, which is needed especially in the industry that I'm going into now, because of course if a tool gets lost on an aircraft, oh dear. Then of course I did engine assembly, which taught me things like how to use manuals and how to work to standards. And then also electronics, which just overall cemented all the skills that I learned within the sheet metal and the engine assembly. So with the college giving me so many opportunities in my first year, I was able to get some work experience with ACS Industries in the town I'm from, Braintree. That gave me an insight into sort of the parts maintenance industry, which I had a very vague knowledge of, which at first did give me some hope to go into that part of the industry, but then of course I saw other opportunities such as sort of aviation. So after unfortunately not being able to achieve an apprenticeship on my first year, the college, of course, having multiple paths, I moved on to the level 3 foundation diploma, which is of course a more theory part, which taught me a lot about aircraft that I didn't know, things like hydraulics, aerodynamics, stuff like that, that really engaged me with the aviation sector, which also I used that knowledge to actually secure my apprenticeship with Storm Aviation, because I did have to write about the theory of flight, which I had previously learned just a few months beforehand. So as Victoria was mentioning, there's a lot of trips that I've been involved with, especially in the first year, we had a presentation from SkySmart about the different sectors and departments they had in their industry. Again, another parts maintenance company, when I was very unsure on what sector of the aviation industry I wanted to join, and it did give me another option that I could look into. And then in the level 3 course, we did take a trip to Titan, where we had a look into one of the A321s on their cargo crew, which also was flown by one of our teachers here while I was on the level 3 course. And then also we had a final trip to GT Engines, which had a look into turboprop, turbofan engines, which was really interesting to me, because of course we were doing a unit at time around engines, and it helped me with my assignments and everything. And I did end up getting merits and distinctions in those units because of that. So, of course, now as an apprentice, I'm studying the level 2, but at a higher grade, and then I'll be moving on to the level 3. But this is just the first steps into my dream job of becoming a B1 certified engineer. And the college has done nothing but help me achieve these dreams. So that's all I have to say. Of course, thank you very much. And I'll hand over to Aziz.
Hello, I haven't been able to get my camera working, but I'll talk about my experiences at
that's
Stansted
okay, Aziz.
Airport
We can hear
College.
you loud and clear, so.
Thank you. I want to introduce myself. Aziz. I grew up in North London, and I went to a secondary school called John Keats. They helped me a lot to find a college that's suitable for my experience. My dreams of becoming a pilot. But when they heard that I wanted to attend Stansted Airport College, and specifically, they were very against it. They had meetings with my parents to turn me away. But that did not stop me. I went to Stansted Airport College and studied a level 3 in aeronautical engineering. And with that experience, I have managed to get into 2 flight schools, and I am one of the aspiring pilots, which hopefully I'll start flight school at the end of this year. My experience with Stansted Airport College is amazing. I've been taking part with the crash drill. I have had a tutor last year. I was in Sean's class last year, and one of my tutor was a pilot with captain with Titan Airways. I have managed to go to a DFT trip, Department for Transportation. I have managed to speak to the youngest trainee pilot in the UK and the STEM, and people at the STEM, that control STEM in the UK. I have been told to go down the traditional route of A-levels to such as maths, physics, and other sciences in order to become a pilot. But personally, I think that doing the level 3 engineering and now going over to aviation operation, that has boosted my ability into getting to L3 Harris and Skyborne, two of the most prestigious airline academies probably in the world. If I do start with Skyborne, which is my preferred choice, I would be with probably the best teachers in the UK that train cadets, all thanks to the college and their partnership. They have brought in guest speakers from Skyborne. They have been helping us find our journey into what we actually want to do in life. And me personally, becoming a pilot, the college has helped me so much with it. If I went down the traditional route, such as A-levels, I probably would not know where to start. But thanks to this college, I have the fundamental ability into progression of my career. It hasn't been easy at first because of COVID, but because of the restrictions, we haven't been able to do the enrichments we wanted. But as Victoria said, we have had so many speakers in last year to help the students around the college to find what they want to do in life. With the education I had with the level 3 aeronautical engineering, I have managed to win the glider competition that was held by the Royal Aeronautical Society and Boeing. So hopefully soon I'll go and do an experience flying drones with them. The college has helped me so much with this. They have pushed me so much into achieving what I have achieved, such as, and one thing with that is with the uniforms and the classrooms. The classrooms are extremely similar to what you would find at flight schools. The uniform is business professional, which is very similar to what you would probably find in the professional environment. And that's my speech about the college. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thanks, Aziz and Sean in particular. No, it's just like daunting joining a joining a webinar like this. So really great to hear your stories as well. So we've got a few minutes left before we finish off the webinar. So I've got some questions sort of to ask you all. Victoria, can I just start with you? You talked quite a lot about employers, and I've visited Stansted, I've visited Harlow College, Stansted, and I've really been impressed with just how involved the employers are. And it's interesting, my thoughts on the airport. I mean, there must be so many employers there. It's not just Manchester Airport Group, one employer, is it? You've got all, I mean, the hundreds of businesses around there. Is that quite easy to coordinate your involvement? Have you found employers have collaborated, or is it very much, have you got to sort of deal with them one by one?
No, we do. On the whole, we deal with them individually and one by one, because they're fiercely competitive out there on that airfield. But we have found the more that we've progressed throughout the years, the more that they start coming and knocking on our door and saying, what can we do? We know that you have got 18-year-olds in a year's time that could be working with us. What can we do to inspire them to think about careers with us? So yeah, it's we have a dedicated member of staff who is our work placement officer, and they very much maintain the relationship with our current employers and are always looking for more to bring into the fold and be able to offer some form of work experience or employer enrichment.
Got it. And Sean, I'm going to ask the same to you as well as this, but I thought if I go to you, Sean, first, I'll do it in the order that you spoke. We have a lot of employers in our organisations, and I know someone on this webinar, and also quite a few will watch the recording. And they'd be interested to know actually your thoughts on actually how is it best for employers to engage with you and talk to you? Do they do quite a good job at the moment? Are there better ways that they can connect you just to explain more about careers and the world of work? Any insights on that side, Sean?
I mean, I've seen no problem with it as I've been at the college. At the moment, we have loads of companies coming in. We literally just had, I wasn't involved with it, but of course we had the Boeing people come in and everything. But with that, hiring through the college, of course, that's how I mainly saw most of my apprenticeship opportunities, because of course during COVID, a lot of companies were using the college to shortlist the best pupils, and I got like probably over 15 like different opportunities from that. And that's of course where I found my dream company that I'm working for now, which is Storm Aviation. I signed up through a recommendation on a level 2 course, and then I unfortunately didn't get it, but I kept that company in mind while I still worked for my level 3 course and signed up this year and luckily got it. So at the moment, I see no problem with what companies are doing, and especially if they just keep looking at the colleges, of course, you'll find some of the people that will work ready.
And Aziz mentioned actually the pressures, to follow, I guess, a more conventional A-levels university type route. How much did you feel that you were sort of, you were bucking that trend, or was all the information that you had sort of feeding you down that route? Any thoughts on that?
I have always been more of a practical person. As such, my learning has always been through, if you show me it and then let me repeat it, I'll learn better. So A-levels never really appealed to me, especially through GCSEs. I was getting sick of sitting exams and everything. So seeing a level 2 course, which was just purely practical plus a small amount of like evidence, I saw no reason why I shouldn't jump on it, because it's just a more open path for people like me who don't like people just talking at you and you having to absorb knowledge.
Yeah, great. No, I agree with that. So Aziz, the same question to you that I started off with Sean around that, because you mentioned actually, again, you're sort of having to fight against the conventional route. But I wonder, have you got any thoughts on actually how easy it is to sort of understand career pathways, or do employers do as good a job as they could do in terms of explaining options to you? Any thoughts on that? Any insights you could give?
I would say that the best option for young students like me into career progression is to push us towards the path we want to be in. I want to be a pilot. I want to learn about airplanes. I don't want to sit in class and learn about a topic which I don't want to do. It's my passion, my whole life. My life passion is to be in aviation, and the fact that I'm in an aviation environment helped me so much. But I would say that companies should facilitate those environments for younger people. So if you want to be, for example, a nurse, young people from the ages of 16 should probably start learning those subjects like medicine in order to progress in their career and their passions.
So Aziz, when did you kind of think that, I want to be a pilot, that's it? Is it something from a young age, or is it something that you sort of developed around that sort of 14, 15, 16 age?
When I was younger, I knew I was into aviation. I used to travel a lot. I used to always sit in the pilot's seat every time we land. As soon as we land, I asked the pilot if I can take a picture. But I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do. But as soon as I went into the college, knowing that it's an airport environment, an aviation environment, and I started to speak to many pilots, many people within the field, I started to realize that I think being a pilot is what's best for me and what I would most enjoy.
Got it. Great. And just back to you, Victoria, on that, as both Aziz and Sean sort of mentioned, that idea of learning on the job, that vocational type learning. One thing that I was really interested when I walked around the college was Karen explained to me the idea of a pre-apprenticeship, because I know it is still a barrier for some employers, in that sort of that slightly younger age group, sort of below 20, going, oh, it's a bit more difficult. They don't necessarily have just as much work experience or life experience. So I was really struck by the idea of that almost a pre-apprentice qualification, recognizing that, so that actually when actually your students are presented to employers, you've done some of that work. So I just wondered if you could explain a bit more about that, because I think employers would be quite interested in that concept.
Yeah, so the pre-apprenticeship program is it looks at the apprenticeship qualification and then matches some of the curriculum intent within that qualification to a pre-apprenticeship. So that's where Sean started with us on the pre-apprenticeship program. His aspirations were to become an apprentice. Unfortunately, market forces, COVID, etc., slowed down his reaching his final destination there. But the pre-apprenticeship very much models what is going on in the workshop. So we've adapted our pre-apprenticeship this year to better meet the partners that we are actively engaged with. When we began, Ryanair promised that they would take 25 of our apprentices. So we listened to them and we built the curriculum around them, in particular the metal work. But we work, a lot of our partner apprentices are component manufacturers or maintenance, and so we needed to think about changing what we did as far as the electrical element was concerned and the engine element, and we brought in some rigs that they would be using as apprentices within some of those component employers. And we work with SkySmart and ACS, where they come in and they do masterclasses with our students as they're going through that practical section of their program, reminding them that this is the kind of thing they would do if they came and they worked for them. So it's a really great way of again improving the knowledge and understanding that those young people have about different employers, because we all know that Ryanair is a massive brand, as is TUI, and a lot of our students aspire to work in the hangar environment with them until they realise they're doing it at 2 o'clock in the morning in -8 conditions. So to work for a component company that sometimes doesn't offer those 24/7 shifts but works 9 to 5, and you can catch their Learjet to Dubai because there's a problem with a plane, becomes more attractive. So those employers come in and they work with those young people, because the apprenticeship program is a 4-year program. And whilst a lot of businesses would look and think a 17-year-old is far too young, actually for that 17-year-old, their first year as an apprentice is full-time still here at college. So we are still building those transferable skills, that maturity, that independence, while they're with us as an apprentice full-time before they then go out to work. Then they're 18 and then they can work airside. So we've created that course specifically for that and to meet those employer needs.
Yeah, I can just see that working in so many different industries, that kind of model. I thought it was a very innovative.
Yeah.
A quick question I've just seen pop into the chat, actually. Where did the salary data come from in your slides? Do you know? Was it from your careers team? Because somebody was asking about the management consulting salary.
Yes, no, we it's done by our marketing department. They do the research, and if we're wrong, please tell me, because I'm happy to update.
Well, my previous job, I used to run student recruitment for Ernst & Young, going back quite a few years now, and actually in the consulting business, once you were getting to sort of higher manager, senior manager, that is the kind of package you'd be on. So it sounds right to me, actually. I think it depends. Management consulting course is a very, very broad term.
Yeah.
We've just got a couple of minutes left, so I wanted to come back to you, Will. You've been quite excited listening to all these wonderful experiences and your wonderful students. And just a slightly broader question, actually, because a lot of the talk amongst our network of employers is about the apprentice levy and actually, can that be better utilised, and actually, is the system working well? And I just wondered, from a college perspective, do you think there's a lot more potential in employers using the apprentice levy? Are things like T levels going to become important? I just wondered if there was a little bit of crystal ball gazing you could do to wrap us up.
So in relation to T levels, yes, I think T levels is certainly a direction of travel for the government, and they really very much align to what our strategy is what Victoria and the students have been talking about. It's very, very much aligned to preparing people to work in the workplace for in largely technical and vocational areas. So they, as a precursor into the government, aspire people to go into higher apprenticeships from a T level. But as you'll recognise from what Victoria and both Aziz and Sean have said, that some of the work, the actual real work-life environments don't necessarily allow people to move directly into a higher apprenticeship. So we also talk about progression sideways. It's not always about progression up through levels and counting, bean counting, if you like. There's quite often valid is a progression sideways. So a young person that's moving through a level 2 to a level 3 program to move into a level 3 apprenticeship is, whilst it's not moving upwards, it's moving across and helping them develop and kind of really hone those vocational skills. But coming back to your point about the employer levy, at the moment we think it's very restrictive. My own view is that it is quite restrictive. Employers have this kind of levy that they can use for one single thing. There is discussion, we know, within the DfE. I don't think there's been an announcement at all, and I don't know whether there's been any decision, but there is discussion taking place now within the Department for Education about how flexibilities could, within the use of the levy, could support employers to maybe carry out much more workforce development and training outside of an apprenticeship. Apprenticeships are for everybody. Apprenticeships are, for any age. Everybody thinks that an apprenticeship is for someone that's 16, and employers can move people, current employees, onto apprenticeships if that's the right thing for them to do. However, employers, and I'm sure people that are on the webinar today, that employers don't necessarily need an apprenticeship for all of their workforce development needs. And outside of apprenticeships, we do a significant piece of work with employers around that broader workforce development needs. And what we talk about skills, what are your skills needs? Apprenticeships is one element of that. Developing their existing workforce is another element of that, as is the future skills that they need with a changing environment, with a low economy and sustainability skills. So I can't give you an exact answer, but I do know conversations are taking place, and there is this conversation taking place within the Department of Education and Government about how they can better possibly use or deploy the apprenticeship levy for better use with employers. Hope that answers your question. Yeah,
it does. Yeah, and we support all that as well, and trying to make an actively participate in that conversation behind all the political noise we have at the moment. Some of this, the day-to-day of what we do and how education work does need to carry on. We're just past the half hour, so Will, Sean, Aziz, Victoria, really thank you for sharing that. As I said, I've visited the college personally, which is where the idea of this webinar came from. Really impressed with what I've seen. I really would encourage employers to, if you're in the southeast area, come and work with Harlow, but if not, look at your local FE colleges. I think there's lots of potential for growth in terms of that employer education interaction. So as I said at the start, we recorded the webinar. If you want to go back and revisit any of the things we discussed, be able to do that. And also please share this very much against your colleagues. We're very keen to share the learnings, and if you would like to pick up anything with the people you've heard from, drop me an email, stephen@ise.org.uk, and I'll put you in touch with our panelist. So once again, guys, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the day. Talk to you all soon. Hopefully see you on a plane one day, Aziz. If I find you on a plane, I'll come knocking on the door and see if I can get to sit in the pilot seat as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank
you,
you.
everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thanks all.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye. Bye.